Okay, so the allegation that I wouldn't have signed off on it if it wasn't all accurate. I was going through a lot in 2013 when we did the divorce. That was also the year of the trial. It was a busy year. When the divorce papers came, I just signed them. I barely read them. I didn't take time to register that he had the dates wrong, and it didn't seem to me like it was going to matter. At that point in time, all that mattered to me were the dates 2004, which we were married in, and 2013, which were the divorce. Everything else was just the middle. It wasn't official, it wasn't legal, it wasn't anything that was going to matter. The date we married and the date we divorced were the two dates that mattered. I didn't think that the messing up of those dates in between would ever come back to label me as a bad person, because it doesn't make any sense that it would. All that really matters is that we were married and then we divorced. The trivials of what happened in between, they're trivials. And she says she didn't know we lived any place other than the property. We lived in a lot of places. We moved around a lot. My ex-spouse had trouble keeping jobs because of anger issues. So we were constantly on the move. When I first left my parents, I was living in my Jeep that I got when I graduated from my grandmother. That's when my spouse met up with me, and he had an apartment. They had an apartment they let me move into. And then a couple of months later, we were married. We lived in that apartment for a little while. And then we moved to a couple of different places. One place we stayed at was a complete scam, because the woman she was a heavy alcoholic. Like, the living room was just stacked with empty beer cans and cases. And so it was kind of clear there was a problem when we first moved in, but we needed someplace to stay cheap. And it was like, I think she was charging us $300 a month for a bedroom, but she wanted, like, I think $600 for the deposit down, right? So we thought we had lucked out. We had a place to live. We were newlyweds. Well, not fully, a couple of months after we were married, I guess. So about 2 weeks after we moved into this place, we woke up one morning and she was gone. Like, entirely gone. Her room had been packed out. And we were like, that's weird. And then a couple of hours later, there's a knock on the door, and the police are at the door, and they say, we have to leave because this place not only did not belong to her to rent out, it was condemned. Nobody was supposed to be living in that place. She had hooked up the electricity illegally. And we were just fucked out of all of the money that we had given her because she was gone in the night. So that was one of the adventures that we went through in our early marriage that Kathy didn't know about. There were a lot of others. There were a lot of little hole-in-the-wall places that we stayed in when we were trying to get on our feet. And then after we separated, when I found out that they were doing drugs, that really annoyed me because we were struggling so much to get moving in life, and the whole time they were doing speed and telling me that they were straight edge, telling everybody. They used to brag about being straight edge, and the whole time they were on amphetamines. It's dizzying thinking back on it. I try not to even think back on those years too much because it was wild. It's a wild trip. When two bipolar people are married and young, things get crazy. But yes, Kathy, to answer that question, yes, we lived in other places other than the trailer. That was a place we lived in the middle of our marriage. There were places before that, there were places after that. But the reason that we had to leave the trailer was because he beat me so bad one night that I broke a window screaming for help, and the neighbors came down, threw him in the back of their pickup truck, drove him to a hotel just outside of town, and told him if they ever saw him down on that road again, they would kill him. About maybe a week after that was when I got the call about my father's suicide. And me and my husband got back together. So, yeah, we did separate in 2006. And then we got back together. And then we separated, and we got back together, and we separated, and we got back together, and we separated, and we fucked, and we separated, and we stayed separated, and we just fucked for a while. And then he was completely out of my life. That's pretty much the timeline.